Hey guys, this is Mrs. Pickett. I am excited to be coming at you with another video today. We're going to be focusing a little bit more on some multiplication properties. Last video we talked only about the distributive property, and this time we're going to talk about the other three properties of multiplication that can help us solve multiplication problems, and they kind of make solving the multiplication problems pretty easy. So the first thing I'm going to do is just out the three different properties. The first one is the zero property of multiplication. So these are all going to be properties of multiplication. So that's what you are going to hear at the end. So zero property of multiplication. You're going to have the identity property, and finally you're going to have the commutative property. And thankfully we've talked about some of these properties already in multiplication, but we've definitely talked about some with addition, and so it's going to be pretty similar in addition as it is in multiplication. So let's talk first about the zero property of multiplication. A really cool thing about the zero, which we did talk a little bit about in class already, is that anything times zero is zero. That's it. So if you have 8 groups of 0, it's just like saying you have 8 groups of nothing, because you have none. 0 is none. So you have 8 groups of nothing. So all the zero property says is if you're multiplying by 0, you're going to have nothing. Your number is going to disappear, and it's always, always, always going to be 0. I kind of like to think of it like a disappearing act. When you multiply by 0, you poof, and it turns into 0. So just remember, anything you multiply by 0 is always, 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 always going to be 0. So now that you've learned how to disappear with your 0, we're going to talk about the identity property of multiplication. So let's just talk about the word identity for a minute. I always think about that word as your identity as a person is who you are, and you are so special as yourself that you have your own identity. What you look like, your personality, how you act, it's your identity, and you're the only person that can be that way. So when you multiply yourself by 1, you just are yourself. So if you think about that same process with numbers, the identity property of multiplication, all it says is when you multiply a number by 1, it doesn't change. You keep your identity because you are just one person. So if you had 8 groups of 1, it's just like saying you have 8, because you're having 8 groups of 1 inside each group. So your identity doesn't change. So again, any number, whether it be 5 digits or 1 digit, is going to always be the same number. So if you were going to tell me what 2 groups of 1 would be, you would say 2 stays the same. If you said, what's 25,219 groups of 1, you would tell me the answer is 25,219. So no matter what, your identity is not going to change. So anytime you multiply by 1, your number stays the same. Say that with me. Anytime you multiply by 1, your number stays the same. Got it? Great. Let's go on to the last strategy. I think this property is kind of fun. It's the commutative property of multiplication. Say it. It's kind of funky to say. Commutative property of multiplication. And this one we used with addition. So again, this one's probably a little bit familiar to you. So with this property, basically what they're saying is if you have 4 groups of 3, we know that is 12. Well, what they say in multiplication is that you can switch the order of your factors and you're going to get the same answer. So if I did 3 groups of 4, I'm still going to get 12. Because either way, whether I do 4 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 4, I'm always going to have 12. So let's do one more example of the commutative property. So let's say I was going to multiply 42 groups of 7. Now I'm going to say 42 groups of 7 is equal to 7 groups of something. Well, if you look at your number sentence, you're going to notice that there's a 42 and a 7 on this side of the equal sign, and on this side I only have a 7. So what's missing? If I crossed out my 7s, I still need a 42. So what this is saying is that 42 groups of 7 is equal to 7 groups of 42. Because no matter which way I write my problem, I'm always going to get the same answer. Okay, so here's your challenge. I've just written down 4 problems for you, and I want to see if you can identify the property that I'm using in each of the problems. You don't need to solve them. I just want to know which property is being used. So pause your video, write down your answers, and then play your video to see if you got them right. All right, go ahead and pause. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with your favorite part, the joke of the day. This one's going to be a Thanksgiving themed joke. So my question is, why was the turkey asked to join the band? I'll see you guys in class. Bye.